Oh, did you hear Tony?
What's with the neighbors?
He just walks around the house yelling. I'm like, why?
Meow! Robin randomly, we went to bed last night and we randomly heard Robin out. You know, like when they make like a weird meow sound and it's usually like right before they throw up? They go,
Yeah.
wow!
Yeah.
She said, it sounded like she said, wow, wow. Or it sounded like Natalie out there saying, wow. And we're like,
Wow.
did Robin just say wow? It
Wow,
sounded
this
like
is going to hurt.
I found no throw up. So either she or the dogs ate it or nothing happened. Or there was a bug. And she
I like
got
when the dogs get it cuz then you don't have to clean it up. It's super
it.
gross.
Sometimes.
It's super gross, but you're just like you just kind of like look the other way like, "Oh, what? Oh, you ate it? No, bad dog."
No. We all think it.
So, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Oh, were we recording? Oh my
Yeah,
god. Have we been recording 3
Yeah.
minutes?
We got your burp in there.
Oh. I didn't even realize you hit record. Thanksgiving was good. We went to go and visit my brother and sister-in-law, and I can now say it because it is public knowledge, but they had a baby. I have a nephew. Yay! They have had quite the struggle in their first year, battling some medical issues, and baby is in the NICU right now, but he is doing well. Mommy's doing well, and I got to hold him. He's only like 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's so tiny and so cute.
Oh, I love that.
I just want to squeeze his head off. He's so cute. Oh, you're so cute. I love you so much. I just want to squeeze you. Refrain from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was good. We had fun. Me and my sister and my brother-in-law and Josh, we all tag teamed on making Thanksgiving dinner happen. It was a busy trip. Like we got there, went go, 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 and came back and we were exhausted. But it was good. Yeah, we got a lot done. We threw her a baby shower. It was Harry Potter themed. It was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and I made the playlist. I'm pretty proud of my playlist.
Oh.
Yeah. How was your Thanksgiving, buddy?
It was good. We ate over at my in-laws' house. I made the turkey. It was amazing. It turned out perfect.
Chef's kiss.
Yes. But we have to talk about something else real quick. I had to get a rabies shot. So I'm just putting it out there because I want everyone to be this is my public service announcement. Don't pick up stray cats. Especially when they're eating. So the cat bit me in my 2 index fingers, and it was the smallest, little, tiniest bite. And I was like, "Oh no, shucks!" The cat, bit me, and so I cleaned it, and did all the precautions you do after you get cut or whatever or bit. And the next day, it started getting like red and swollen, and so I was like, "Oh no, I probably am it's probably infected." So I went to I did a teledoc, and she was like, because you have more than one bite, you need to go to a walk-in clinic. So I went to the walk-in clinic, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you need to go to the ER and do a rabies protocol." And I was like, "What? No." I was like, it was a cat bite. They're like, "You probably have rabies." And I was like,
yeah.
Excuse you. That's enough.
What kills me is that you're surprised by this.
Yeah, I was like, no way. No way. They're like, you need to go. So I go to the ER and I'm like, I'm here because a cat bit me. And they're like, oh, okay. And so the doctor that saw me, or like, I think he was like a LPN. I don't know what he was. He like, they do like the triage, like to check to see what your fever and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
he's like, we'll just give you some medication, antibiotics, and send you on your way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And
Cool.
so, yeah, so I'm sitting in the, they like put me back in the waiting area, and he's like, just wait for your discharge paperwork. And I was like, cool. So then I get called back into another room, and I was like, is this where you guys just discharge? And like, because I thought that was weird, because like there was like desks with women sitting at it, like that you would like check in or check out at.
Right.
And they're like, no, do you want any numbing medicine? And I was like, what? For what? And they're like, for your shots. And I was like, I don't know, like I don't think I need it. And the guy was like, if you don't get it and you do have rabies, you will die. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like for sure you're dead. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't want to die. I don't think I do. And so he was like, okay. So then he left, and the lady was like, do you want numbing cream? And I was like, well, I mean, like, what does it feel like? And she was like, it's just like a shot, like any other shot, like flu shot or whatever. And I was like, I mean, I guess I could have like localized medic cream. I was like,
Yeah.
sure, why not?
Why not?
And she was like, okay. And so they finally pull me back to get whatever it's called, to get the shots. And I was like, where am I getting the shots? And she was like, in your fingers. And I was like, huh? And I'm like, no way this is happening. So she does the first one, and I'm like, I'm crying. And I was like, how many more do we have to do? She says, we have to do 3 in
Oh my
each
god.
finger.
Oh my god.
So she did the 3, and she just kept going. I was like, just keep going. Like, don't stop. Don't stop. And so she keeps going. And after she did the 3, I was like shaking so bad. I was going to pass out. Like, I had to lay down, and I was bawling my eyeballs out. And then she was like, okay, now we have to do the other 4, because they
Oh
had to
my
be 10
goodness.
shots
Oh my
total.
goodness.
So then she did 1 shot in each arm, and then a shot in each hip. I called my parents, and I was like, come pick me up. I cannot drive right now. Like, I was shaking and freaking out. It was so bad.
Oh my
10 out of
goodness.
10. Do not pick up a stray animal at all. Like, don't do it. It
I'm glad you're
was
not dead.
me too. But the cat definitely didn't have rabies.
But you never know.
I
Just in
guess.
case.
I guess.
Oh,
But I'm
dude.
so glad I did get the shots, because there was a teacher that was like somewhere in California like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that just died from rabies because a bat bit
What?
her.
What?
Yeah. Like there
What?
was a bat in her classroom or something, and it bit her,
Oh my gosh.
and she died because she didn't
That's
go and get her rabies
crazy.
shot. Mhm.
Get your rabies shots. Guys, don't play around with that.
Now I can get as many bits as I want.
Dude, when you Snapchatted me that morning, you're like, I got bit by a cat last night. My fingers hurt really bad. I was like, oh, your fingies. And then you were like, you explained it to me, and I'm like, dude, you should go. You better be careful. It's a stray cat. Like, and then you told me later, you're like, I had to get so many shots in my finger.
So terrible.
Oh my god, that's awful. Oh,
Okay, who's going first this week?
Can I go first? I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I'm kind of excited about the story. Let's hear some shenanigans from the neighborhood types.
Okay. So I had a question for you, but I kind of talked for a long time. So this is from next door, and it says, "Oh, this was actually real life in my town."
Okay.
So it says, "Man screaming, man walking down plaza with an umbrella, screaming like he's generally in danger. Went outside with bear spray, but seems completely fine. Just casually walking down the street. Doesn't seem like much, but just wanted to let everyone around us know everything is okay outside. Thank you
Good
for
to
letting
know.
us thank you for
Um,
letting us know."
Back away from the guy with the bear sauce, the bear spray, the bear
And the
sauce,
umbrella.
and the
And no,
umbrella.
it sounds like the man was walking down the street screaming with an umbrella, and this person went outside with bear spray, but like everything is fine. They're
Oh,
like,
I see. I
yeah.
see. Got you. He was about
Thank
to smile
you.
him. Good
Thank
job.
you for letting us know that everything is fine in the
Yeah,
world.
it's good.
Also, back away from the man with the umbrella screaming.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And maybe just don't scream. I am going to tell you about the abduction of Antonio Vilas Boas.
Ooh, who is this Antonio man?
He's a person who is abducted by aliens. Bum bum
Ellen. You're wearing the
bum.
perfect shirt for it.
I am indeed. I am. It was definitely
Ha-
planned.
Happy ending abductions.
Happy ending abduction. Our Barney and Betty Hill story. This actually happened before that.
Oh, okay.
First off, I would like to note that so you know how sometimes when we have hard names to pronounce, wow, rude. The way he just stared at you, Amy.
I didn't do
He's like,
anything.
"What the f are you touching me for? Leave me alone. God." So, you know how we sometimes spell out, names differently so we could pronounce them
Yes.
correctly?
Yeah.
So, this was spelled in a very different way, but I spelled it in the most white person way possible. Antonio, I can pronounce, but it
Yeah.
was Vilas, Vilas, and the way I wanted to remember those, Vilas
V.
Boas, Bowas. That is not how it's spelled, but Vilas Boas. Also,
Vilas bolas.
there is a name pronunciation website that I found, so, yeah, it's really helpful. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
I was like,
Because
"How do
I'm
I
so
pronounce"
bad at it.
same, especially
Most
since
of the
it's, like,
time,
not American, or
yeah.
yeah.
Most of the time I like find it on YouTube.
Okay, so enough about that. Antonio Vilas Boas was a
Hmm.
Brazilian farmer. Before Betty and Barney Hill's story came out, Antonio claimed he had an encounter with aliens, making him one of the first official victims to have claimed to be abducted. So, the story starts on October 15th of 1957. Antonio
Okay.
was plowing the fields near São Francisco de Sales. I should have looked up that one at night to avoid the heat and the sun during the day.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, work smarter, not harder. Like,
Yeah.
why get sunburnt and overheated during the day if you can just work at night?
Yeah.
So much more chill. He claimed he had seen what he described a red star in the night coming towards him, growing in size as it got closer. When it was close enough, it looked like an egg shaped aerial craft with a red light as its front and rotating cupola. That is like
Ooh.
a dome roof
Okay.
type thing. So
Okay.
I put in parentheses dome roof type thingy. Antonio said the craft began to descend and approached for landing in the field, extending 3 legs. He decided to hightail it out of there, as
Yeah.
most smart people would do. He first tried driving away on his tractor that he had until the engine mysteriously died,
Oh.
which things in abduction stories or in stories with extraterrestrials equipment or electronics tend to die.
Yeah.
That's where my brain goes. So he continued on foot. Not getting far enough, he was approached by a 5-foot humanoid.
What?
These guys are short. Picture Tom Cruise. Um, they were wearing gray coveralls and a helmet.
Oh. Gray? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a mechanic coveralls.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here. That's where my brain goes. Its eyes were small and blue, and it made noises like barks and yelps. It's Blue's Clues. So then 3 similar beings joined it, and they dragged Antonio inside the craft.
Poor Antonio.
They then stripped Antonio's clothes off, completely naked, and covered in some kind of gel substance. We don't know what this gel substance is, but
Did
he
it have
was
a smell?
he didn't say it did, but it was probably pretty slippery and slidey. That's my brain goes to KY jelly.
Yeah.
He was then led into a large semicircular room, and he described some strange red symbols over the doorway, which he actually like memorized. So he was able to like talk about like and describe like what each symbol like looked like. So he's got a pretty good memory, but maybe trauma made him remember it. I don't know.
Maybe.
So the beings took samples of blood from him through his chin.
Ah!
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, why?
Well, they probably didn't go to phlebotomy school, so they probably don't know where to get the blood from.
True. They probably don't have blood. Maybe they don't have blood. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe that's where their veins are.
Maybe they're like, hey, let's, this looks like an easy spot.
Yeah.
Right there.
Ugh.
So,
my poor chin.
They did that. Poor guy. And he was taken to another room and left in there for what he said felt like 30 minutes. So he's keeping track of time.
Okay.
So after about 30 minutes, some kind of gas was pumped into the room, which made him violently ill.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of ill. I'm assuming he was nauseous. I'm assuming he maybe got a headache or stomach ache. I don't know. But he was pretty sick from it. Not long after, and after all the gas stopped, another humanoid came into the room. But this one appeared to be a very attractive naked female.
What?
With long white platinum blonde hair and a pointed chin and small blue eyes.
So this was a human?
Or humanoid. She because they're called humanoids because they were like similar to human features but not human.
Okay.
So this one appeared to be a female one who was naked, platinum blonde hair, blue eyes, but her armpit hair and her hoo-ha hair were red, bright fiery red.
Oh.
So the carpets did not match the drapes.
Okay.
Somebody goes to a salon. He admitted to have been very attracted to this woman and even had sexual intercourse with her.
Oh.
They did not kiss, but it nipped him on the chin.
They have a thing for chins.
I don't know what the obsession is with chins. I don't. Like, maybe he had a good chin.
Maybe.
You know, there's some people out there that just have like a really strong like chin, and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
I could nip that. When it was all over, she smiled at him, rubbed her belly, and gestured upwards. He took this as her saying that she was going to have a child and raise it in space.
That's how he took that?
Maybe she was hungry.
Maybe. My hunger went up.
I'm hungry. I'm going to go upstairs to go get a snack.
Yeah.
You want something? That's why I tried to bite your chin. Just so appetizing.
Oh my lord.
So he was then given back his clothing, thank God, and they
That
took
was
him on a
nice.
tour. They took him on a tour of the craft. He attempted to take a clock-like device as a way of, like, proof to, like, show people, like, this
Yeah.
actually happened, but they caught him and prevented him from doing it, and he was escorted off the ship. I don't know if that's why he was escorted off, but, like, that was the next part of it, and I was like, "Oh, they were not okay with that."
Yeah, they're like, "No proof, buddy."
Nope. Bye, bud. So they took him off the ship and he watched it take off. And when he returned home, he seen that 4 hours had passed. So he was gone for 4 hours.
Wow.
So the next day, somebody was going to be pissed that he did not do his plowing.
Yep.
He did not
Yep.
get his work done. Poor Antonio. He had claimed to suffer from spouts of nausea, weakness, headaches, and some light bruising on his skin. He eventually contacted a journalist named Jose Martins. Jose placed an ad in the paper looking to see if other individuals had had similar experiences. I'm
Yeah.
guessing nothing came of it because there was nothing else after that. The journalist also contacted an Alovo Fontes of the National School of Medicine of Brazil, who examined Antonio because he was still having
Oh.
these issues of like nausea and like sores even. The examination concluded that Antonio had been exposed to a large dose of radiation and was
Oh my
suffering from a
gosh.
mild radiation sickness. It was stated that among his symptoms of pain through the body, nausea, headaches, loss of appetite, ceaselessly burning in the eyes, cutaneous
Oh.
lesions at the slightest of light, and bruising that went on for months. He also had small reddish nodules of that were painful to the touch, and they had like it makes it sound like they had like pus in them, like
Ew.
blisters
Yeah.
that were like a wateryish, yellowish discharge in them. So it sounds like he had
Gross.
like blisters all over him.
Yeah.
So he looked like he had burns all over him.
Yeah.
So the story was obviously overshadowed by Betty and Barney Hill, which happened less than 5 years later. This story didn't even like come out until like a couple years after it had happened. So
Oh.
he was able to recall every single detail without any kind of hypnosis or anything like that.
Wow.
So it kind of seems like it could be a hoax as far as like hoaxes and whatnot. Researcher Peter Rogerson doubted that several months later, prior to Antonio's claims, a similar story was printed in November 1957 issue of the periodical O Crucio and suggested that Antonio took details from this story and also took some elements of the contact stories from George Adamski, who was a famous Polish UFOlogy writer. So
Okay.
they're thinking that like this one guy was like thinking like a similar story came out like right before this happened. So I think he took some details from this and maybe he made it all up and also was into this other UFOologist or whatever and took some information from him as well and just made up his own thing. However, he had no reason to lie. He was very descriptive and stuck to his story his entire life. Like why
Wow.
would you do that? What do you have going for you? Like he didn't become famous from it.
Right.
So
He
like
didn't make money.
yeah, Betty and Barney Hill became very like everybody knows Betty and Barney Hill as far as like alien abductions go and stuff like that. So a big piece of evidence was all the lesions on his body too. Like you don't
Yeah.
just get radiation poisoning from plowing a
Right.
field. Like
Right.
what was this guy doing that caused all these? And he was having it for like months. Also, researcher Peter Rogerson also noted that one of the reasons why this story gained such credibility was that the prejudiced assumption that any farmer in Brazilian interior has been an illiterate peasant who couldn't even make this stuff up. So basically they're saying like anybody in this
He's too dumb.
area it was too dumb and couldn't read, and why would they make this up? They couldn't make this stuff up. However, they were not poor because they had a tractor. They didn't have like the plows that you have to pull with horses and stuff like that. They
Right.
had an actual tractor. So they obviously were not poor. He actually became a lawyer.
Oh.
So Yeah, so they weren't poor, but he also, like he was, like, a well-known guy and a simpleton, very respectable, so he had no reason to lie. So,
Right.
I think it's true, but I'm also biased. So, like I said, later on, he did become a lawyer, and he was married with 4 children, and he did stick to his story his whole life. In 1991, he did die at just 56 years old, and I
Oh,
couldn't find
wow.
out how he died. I would find it really interesting if he died from something like cancer,
Yeah,
just because of, like, the radiation and stuff like that, or just some kind of really random disease, but, like, 56 is young. Even in
that
the
is pretty young.
90s,
Yeah.
like, that's really young. I would
Yeah.
think, like, 70s, maybe 80s for the 90s, but 56, maybe. I don't know.
I have a question. Was he married when he was abducted?
I don't think so.
That's good because otherwise he cheated on
Oh,
her.
no, I'm, like, positive he wasn't, because he wasn't even a lawyer yet.
Oh, okay.
He was only, like, 20 something years old. I think he was, like,
Gotcha.
20. I don't remember.
He
I
was
wanna
in
say it
his
was, like, I
20s.
saw something about, like, 23 or something like that. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he wasn't married.
Because even if it's an alien, that is still cheating.
Well, it sounds like it kinda just happened. I mean, obviously, he didn't say no, but he didn't say, or he said no, but, I mean, there had to be consent there. So it doesn't sound like he was very upset about it. He's like,
That
"Damn."
didn't think I would ever get with an alien.
He really came inside that spaceship.
Stop. My mother listens to this podcast.
Hi, mom. My mom's laughing at it. Your mom probably is too. But yeah,
Probably
that's it.
not. That was a good story.
Thanks.
I
It was
liked that
short,
one.
but sweet.
You haven't done an alien one in a long time.
Yeah, I was feeling alien abduction today, so
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, well, let me tell you mine. So, I've actually been wanting to do this case for a really long time, like probably one of those like ones that I wanted to do since we started the podcast.
oh,
It's kind of a big deal. I don't know how much of a big you know what? Actually, I don't know how big of a deal it is because Bailey Sarian, you know who that
Sar
is?
I know who Billy Cyrus is.
No, Bailey Sarian. She is a YouTuber and she does murder and makeup.
Oh.
Like like
Oh, I feel like I've seen her before.
she does like the crazy beautiful makeup. So,
Yeah.
yeah. She hasn't even covered this case. So I don't know,
Okay.
but I'm like, for me, it's a big deal, but I don't know if it's because it happened in my area. Does that
It's a
make
big deal,
sense?
buddy. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
big deal. It's a murder. It clearly has murder in it, so, it has to be a big, or
Eh,
a crime in it.
a crime. So I'm also going to preface this by saying I got all of my information regarding this case from the internet and a book written by Anne Rule. I did not use any information regarding this case that is not public knowledge.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
say that because some of it happened in Shasta County.
Okay. All right.
So
It is
I'm going to tell
public knowledge, people. You can look it up.
you can find this. There was a documentary on it. There's actually a couple documentaries. The book by Anne Rule, I use a lot of the information from from her. So I'm going to tell you about Andy Woodfield. And who is Andy Woodfield, you would ask?
Who
He
is Andy
is
Woodfield?
he's the I-5 killer.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Randy was an I-5 is a highway that stretches all the way from, I want to say it's all the way down to Mexico, but from I-5 all the way up to Washington. All
Okay.
like
I bet
stretches.
I've ridden on that one because I drove from California to Washington before.
then yeah, you drove the I-5. Yeah.
Okay.
And like I-5 goes straight through Redding, like
Right.
right in the middle of it.
Goes to, like, Oregon?
Goes to
Okay.
Oregon from San Diego all the way up California, right through the middle of Oregon and right through the middle of Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Randy was born December 26, 1960, in Salem, Oregon, to Walter Jack Woodfield and Donna Jean Woodfield. He was the youngest of three children. He had two older sisters. Randy was raised in a wealthy upper class family. His dad worked at the Pacific Northwest telephone company called Bell, and his mother was a stay at home mother. They were doting parents. They thought their family was complete once Randall came along. Donna eventually got a job as a clerk at a local pharmacy when Randy was in high school. Now, Randy was born in Salem, but about a year after he was born, they moved to Corvallis, Oregon, where they lived for 2 or 3 years until they finally settled in a coastal town in Oregon called Otter Rock. Otter Rock is close to Newport. It's like three-fourths up the way of the Oregon coast.
Okay.
So Randy's family was known as like the all-American family. Their kids were beautiful, they were well-mannered, they were well-liked in the community. Randy was pretty athletic. At a young age, he showed that sports just came naturally to him. His father worked long hours but always found time to tutor and coach Randy in his sports. Although his dad coached him, it was pretty obvious Randy was mainly raised by his mother, and Randy showed jealousy towards his sisters because they were a bit older than him and they had more freedom. They were able to like come and go as they please. And instead of like realizing that this freedom is because of their age,
Right.
he believed it was because of their gender and
Aw.
thought that women could just do whatever they want.
Hell yeah, they can.
So, I mentioned the Woodfield children were all well mannered and were considered an all American family.
Right.
This meant that the children were expected to behave a certain way. One thing Randy was curious about was the birds and the bees.
Aren't we
And
all?
he was like in 5th or 6th grade at this point, and his mom was like, We're not discussing this at home. You'll learn about that in high school." And
Oh.
to get back at his mother, Randy started going around the small town of Otter Rock and exposing his genitals to women. He like was subconsciously like getting back at his mother for this, and he liked to see the shock on women's faces when he did it. So obviously this got back to his mother, and he had to sit down. He had like a sit down with the authorities and his parents, and they had like a stern talking about his behavior, and that was it. They were like, no repercussions, just stop doing that. Stupid. So
Let me wee pee pee.
so because he was a white male who had potential to do great things, and this is the 60s, so they're like, just stop doing that. So once Randy hit high school, his athleticism was known not just in the small community of Newport and Otter Rock. It actually grew throughout the entire state. Like everybody knew who Randy Woodfield was. He played baseball, basketball, track, and football.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot. He made the all-state football team junior and senior year. Randy was super popular, good looking, the captain of the football team and the baseball team. And he dated like a ton of girls. He always had a girl like on his arm. However, he preferred to date younger girls because these girls seemed to be more like, oh, Randy, and like more obsessed with him. Whereas like the girls his age were like, mm,
Ew.
yeah.
I
Like
saw your
I mean,
wiener.
so he graduated high school in 1969, and he truly could have gone to like any university with his because of all of his like
Yeah.
everyone wanted him. But he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do something different." So he enrolled in Treasure Valley Community College in Ontario, Oregon. And this started things started to go south for him at this point. He was a C minus average student at best. He
Oh,
also started breaking and entering other student dorm rooms and community commit petty theft. Like he would steal like cassette tapes or like magazines, small things like that. He also was still dating a lot of women, but he would, when I say he dated a lot of women, he's like seeing like a different girl every week.
okay.
It's like, but he managed to date one woman for several months. Her name was Sharon McNeil. Um, it, like I said, that wasn't like him, so it was very shocking for his family. Like, and his friends are like, "Oh wow, like they are like
Pretty
going
serious.
steady." Yeah. Sharon eventually got tired of his two-timing obsessiveness. She didn't like his controlling personality, so she broke up with him, and that absolutely broke his heart. In August of 1970, Randy broke into her parents' home and totally trashed her room. He was arrested, but I guess there wasn't enough evidence to start a trial, and the charges ended up getting dropped. So, uh, yeah, I
That
just,
sucks.
yeah. Around this time, he also started exposing himself again to women around town.
Oh no.
And when law enforcement caught him, rather than charging him with indecent exposure, he got another stern talking to and was encouraged to move to a different school.
A little slap on the wrist.
A little, stop doing that.
Wow.
What are you doing? Which is absolutely crazy. Like, if he's doing it multiple times, they
Yeah, I was about to
finally
say,
catch him.
there's a pattern here. Come on.
Yeah, stop it. And stop him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a little misdemeanor, but like they add up.
Still, like,
Like,
exactly, and, like, it could turn into something else.
yes. So a little while until for a little while until 1971 and 1973, he moved to Portland, Oregon and went to Portland State University and majored in health education. Like he didn't get
Oh
his
god.
major. I know.
Oh,
When I
no.
learned when I
I
learned that,
already
I
know
was
what's
like
happening.
when I learned that, I was like, "No way."
Why is this is where the stereotype comes from.
So he didn't actually get his degree, but
Okay.
that's what he was majoring in. So he was majoring in health education and he became an amazing football player for PSU, Portland State University. So at this point, Randy had a lot going for him and he had his head on his shoulders. He was doing great in school, he was great at football, he became religious and was attending church multiple
Okay.
times a week.
We all
He
need
was
some
writing
Jesus.
he was writing letters back to home to his friends and family about how amazing his life is and how he's turned things around.
Okay.
But
Oh, good.
he he was still exposing himself to the
Mm,
townspeople of Portland.
there it is.
So, because the city is much larger, it took some time to find who this person was. I don't know
He's
how
like
he did
the
it.
flash, the local flasher. It's
That's
like a
what okay,
trench coat.
that's exactly what I'm picturing
It's where my brain
with,
is.
like, boots, like,
Yeah,
little
like
mud
socks, you could see the
boots.
socks out a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. It's just like,
A
"Where's"
hat.
Yeah,
Like, basically Inspector Gadget, but without clothes underneath.
yeah!
Ta-da-da-da-da, Inspector Gadget. Da-da-da-da.
That's exactly what I picture. I'm
Uh,
sure that's not how it was, but it makes
before
the
the
story better.
time. Before the time, though. I mean, who has time to unbutton and unzip those tight pants? Because they wore
That
tight
is
pants back
true.
then
Yeah,
too.
they did.
This
That's
isn't this
true.
wasn't the 90s. The boys wore some tight pants that squeeze their bottoms. The bottoms.
So, he's doing this. It took them a while. However, in August 1972, he was caught and arrested and charged for indecent exposure, and he was convicted but served no jail time or probation.
Why?
So, I mean, even if it's just like one misdemeanor, most of the time you're not going to get jail time. It depends on the severity of the charge,
Yeah.
but like you could do like a week or a month. It depends on the severity of the charge. But like if he's doing this multiple times, like put him behind
Yeah,
bars.
exactly.
In June of 1973, he was arrested again for indecent exposure. He was sentenced to a few months in jail, which he never served. And he was arrested again for the same thing and was sentenced to 5 years probation, which he was never checked on with his probation officer. Like, law enforcement kind of was like, oh well.
What
Like,
you say 5 years?
he was on probation for 5 years.
Good lord.
Like, he keeps doing this.
Yeah.
So,
He needs to be watched very closely. He's like a
yes.
toddler at this point who does not
Yes,
like to walk around
exactly.
with pants on.
With pants
He's
on.
like a potty training toddler.
But the probation, like you're supposed to like check in with the person. You're supposed to do like pee test depending on like if you're allowed
Oh,
drugs or
like drugs
alcohol.
and
Like,
stuff? Okay.
yeah, like you're supposed to check in with the person.
Right.
And the law enforcement was like, "Nah,
Whatever.
it seems like a lot. All he was doing is showing his peen. Like, who cares?"
So many times.
So, following this, he was arrested 2 more times for the same thing, and he promised law enforcement he would never do it again, and law enforcement was like, "All right, pal, we believe you." So, they didn't do anything.
Of course.
So, on February 20th, 1974, Randy was drafted to the Green Bay Packers during the
What?
7th round of draft picks, which is like kind of embarrassing. Do you know how draft picks work?
I don't.
Okay, so this is how I picture it. I learned recently about draft picks I think through TikTok. And basically, you know how like when you're on you're doing a team and you're like team A and team B. And so team A, they're like, I want John. And then team B says, I want Jimmy. And then team A says, I want so and so. And, you know, they go back and
Go back
forth.
and forth.
Yeah. So that's how draft picks work.
Oh, so he was like the last of the bunch picked.
Yeah.
Oh,
Poor buddy.
same. Same. Nobody ever wanted me for dodgeball because I was short, but you know what? I usually was never hit because I was
Because you're
short.
short.
Yeah, and it was fast.
I'm sorry. I would have picked you number 1.
Thanks, buddy.
So he was drafted into the Green Bay Packers. Of course, he moved to Wisconsin and practiced with the traveling team. This didn't last very long, though. He was cut pretty quickly. Randy's excuse for this was he wasn't able to show his talent for them, and was
His
just
talent. He just couldn't show his talent. That's what we're talking about. He wants to show something else.
He's like, they won't let me like show my talent, and they just wanted me for tackling dummy, which is like, but it was actually because he continued to expose himself to the citizens of Wisconsin. And the Green Bay Packers were like, we are not going to call law enforcement. Just you're off the team.
Sorry,
Go.
man. You gotta stop. Nobody wants to see it.
That's so embarrassing for us. So, in late of 1974, he moved back to Portland and moved in with a friend and got a job at an electronics store. In the early months of 1975, Randy's crimes started to escalate. He would go to the local park at night and hold women at knife point and force them to perform oral sex on him.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And all of these women were able to like get away and report it to law enforcement. So law enforcement ended up doing a sting operation where they had a female cop go undercover and went to the park, and she was able to successfully lure him in, and he held her at gunpoint. And right as he was started to force her to perform oral sex, law enforcement like swooped in and arrested him.
Okay. Can I just say, it sounds like law enforcement let that go really far.
Yeah.
You found the guy, like, you don't need
Well,
to,
you
like
have to, well, so they do. They
oh,
have
they have to
to.
get him caught in the crime.
Correct.
Okay.
So, like,
Wow, but he had
I'm
a gun.
I'm sure he had a knife.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so I'm sure, like, he didn't, like, pull his pants down or anything, but, like, like, there has to be like, the act has to be
A threat,
a threat, yeah.
right.
So, alright, so, she was 6 or they swooped in and they arrested him. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for armed robbery and none for the sexual assault charges stuck.
What?
So, and I'm going to assume this is just me assuming because, like, I can see how some of these things they use it as like a bargaining chip. Like, all right, we'll drop these charges if you take this charge. Does that make
Okay,
sense? And armed robbery, I could see being a more severe charge
right.
than rape sometimes, not always, but maybe during the time and
Well, there's more
during,
lives at risk too,
yeah.
or there could be more
So,
lives at
and
risk.
yeah, and it's armed robbery, so there's a
Yeah,
weapon, there's more enhancements
probably
that
what's
he
at
could.
stake.
Yeah. So Randy could not stand the female guards at the prison. He didn't like going to therapy. He didn't think letting the therapist know about his sexual fantasies was appropriate. He did continue to work out. So he was like getting buff. He also wrote a lot of women while he was in jail. And he had a long term relationship with a 17-year-old while he was in prison.
Oh, that's appropriate.
Yeah. So after after 4 years, he was paroled and put on probation. Randy then became hard to track down. He kept moving around, and his parents gave him a gold Volkswagen Bug, so he was able to drive and take off and go wherever he wanted. Not checking in with his probation officer. Randy started to focus on bartending. He worked at the Fawcett Tavern and eventually robbed $3,000 from them, but law enforcement didn't do anything about it. Randy would go to social events or parties and he always had a woman on his arm. Also, quite a bit younger than him. He was possessive and obsessive. He would shower them with gifts and flowers and love and attention. He was just like the best boyfriend, but he was also possessive and obsessive and probably very controlling. December of 1980, Randy rented a room from a single mother named Arden Bates. She has a son who was 6 years old. At first, Arden thought Randall was amazing. She didn't understand where he got his money from because he was unemployed, I
Right.
guess, because he stopped working at the tavern after he stole from them. He did get unemployment, but it wasn't very much. She couldn't understand how Randall was able to shower these girls he would bring over with flowers and gifts, let alone pay rent. But she really liked him. So she was like, whatever. Like, not,
Ignore the red flags. It's
yeah.
fine.
She also liked that, like, he always paid rent on time. She was happy with him as a tenant, and he would even sometimes babysit for her. So she was probably like, I'm not going to question where you get your money.
Sure.
So, December 30th, Randall met the woman of his dreams, Shelly Hansen. She
Shelly.
at Shelly, they met at a bar in Eugene, Oregon. They started talking and fell head over heels with each other in love. She thought he was the best thing ever to happen to her, but she was actually just home for Christmas visiting and she had to go back to school in New Mexico. So she had to go back to school. They ended up having a long distance relationship. And this whole time, Randy was like seeing other women behind her back. But
Whoa.
she thought that they
I'm
were,
not surprised.
yeah, but like she thought that they were going to get married. Like she was obsessed with him. And he was like, maybe, I don't know. They dated until into 1981. In February of 1981, he told Shelley to move back to Oregon because he couldn't stand being away from her. So Shelley packed her car and moved back to Oregon.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
On October 10th, 1980, the body of 29-year-old X-ray technician Sherry Aries was found in Portland, Oregon apartment. She was raped and bludgeoned to death. Sherry was a former classmate of Randy's in high school, and when Randy was released from prison after serving 4 years in 1979, she helped plan a 10-year high school reunion for their high school. So,
Oh.
on
Oh.
November, I'm getting into the murders now, and
Yeah.
just so you know.
Mm.
So, I did it weird. So, his life and the things that were happening, told you, and then now we're just kind of taking these murders and putting them into
Yeah.
the storyline. Okay. So November 27th, 1980, the bodies of 22-year-old Darcy Fix and 24-year-old Doug Altick were found in Darcy's apartment. They were found bound by athletic tape and were both shot execution style by a 32 caliber revolver.
Dude, that's brutal.
Darcy was Randy's roommate Tim's ex-girlfriend. They had broken up a couple months before. So this is when he was living with his friend in Portland.
Okay.
And Tim was his roommate and Darcy was dating him.
Okay.
Well, Darcy, when Tim told Randy that Darcy broke up with him, that infuriated Randy, and as if Randy was dating Darcy, but he
Yeah.
wasn't. Tim was like, chill, bro. We're friendly and we're on good terms. But
Yeah.
Randy was still upset. So he went and killed her and another man that she was with.
It's none of your beeswax, Randy.
He made it his beeswax.
Man, he did.
So Randy was questioned for the 3 murders, and he was not very cooperative with law enforcement. He refused to give DNA, take a poly test, but after the investigation, they didn't have enough evidence to tie him to the murders.
Oh, that
So,
sucks.
December of 1980, Randy walked into a Vancouver, Washington station and robbed it using a fake beard. So that's how he's getting his I know. That's how he's getting his money, is he's robbing places.
Wow.
So, on December 13th, 1980, Randy robbed a Baskin Robbins using athletic tape over his nose. And the next day, he robbed an Arctic Circle at gunpoint.
What? An athletic tape over his nose?
He took athletic tape and put it over his nose.
Why would that hide
Okay.
your identity?
So I didn't put it in the story, but I'm glad you asked because I think it's a good point. When Randy was in prison, he learned that it's impossible to identify somebody if their nose is not if their nose is concealed.
Okay. I just got the you know those glasses that come with the fake nose? Randy should have gotten those.
He should have gotten those with
He
the
would have
little
had the whole,
mustache.
and he could have even done his whole trench coat thing. Would have been perfect. Interesting. Okay. Okay. All right. Athletic. Good to know. Good to know. Good to know.
That's what he learned, anyways. So on December 21st, Randy robbed a church's kitchen outside. Church's chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah, church's.
A church's kitchen? That's sick.
He robbed a church's chicken.
Blood in the body of Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
This was outside of Seattle, Washington. He forced a 25-year-old to undress and he fondled her and then robbed the
Ew.
register.
Ew.
That same night, he walked into another Baskin Robbins in Bathan, Washington, and robbed them at gunpoint.
Damn.
On January 8th, 1981, he went to an Arco station in Seattle, forced the women working there to expose her breasts, and then robbed them.
All right.
On January 11th, 1981, he robbed a grocery cart market in Eugene, Oregon, coming away with $35. So,
wow. Was it worth it?
That night, he did not take his girl out to dinner. He's like, we are getting Burger King.
Yes.
So,
the king.
So on January 12th, 1981, Randy walked into another establishment, robbing it at gunpoint using his athletic tape and beard. He forced a female worker to put the money from the register in the bag, and then he shot her in the shoulder.
Oh,
And he
okay.
made her lay on the ground while he left. Luckily, she was able to see what vehicle he was using, which was the gold VW bug that his parents gave him. On January 14th, 1981, Randy was in Corvallis, Oregon, and he approached the front door of the Green family home. Mary Sue Green was 10 years old, and 8-year-old sister Megan were home alone. Their mother was 5 minutes away at a gym working out for about 45 minutes. And this is something that she would do often, but it's never an issue. He made up the story that his car had broken down and he needed to use their phone. And because he looked like a normal guy, the girls felt safe to let him in. He told the girls the line was busy and asked if he could sit on the couch and watch TV with them. Um,
No.
they said no.
Good
So
girls.
he took out his gun and forced them into the bathroom. He made them undress and perform sexual acts on him.
Ew.
Yes. He then made them stay in the bathroom while he fled the scene. The girls were able to give a very detailed and accurate description of Randy to law enforcement.
That poor mom probably
I
felt
know.
so bad. She's like the one freaking time. Like, I would feel so terrible.
I would never ever
Leave my
ever
children by themselves ever again.
no. I would never forgive myself.
Yeah,
I
same.
like, oh. So on January 18th, 1981, Beth Wilmot and Sherry Hall were about to start their shift at Transamerica office cleaning, like they were cleaning the office in
Right.
Salem, Oregon. Randy walked in using his beard and tape and forced both girls into an office, undressed and sexually assaulted them, and then shot them both execution style. Sherry died immediately, but Beth was able to crawl to a telephone and call 911, and she was able
Damn.
yeah, and she was able to see Randy leaving in the gold bug, and she actually survived.
So she was shot in the head though, right?
Yeah, she was shot,
I
but
would
she
assume so if it's
survived.
execution style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's not cool, but that's cool. You badass.
She
Lucky.
survived, and the lead detective on this case actually, like, took her in. His wife and her took her in and, like, was there with her while she was, like, recovering and stuff,
Wow.
like, they kind of, like, she kinda, like, became their unadopted daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, so the next night, he robbed a skating rink in Vancouver, Washington. On February 3rd, Randy walked into a Burger Express in Redding, California, and robbed the place at gunpoint. He then took the 46-year-old and 18-year-old woman that were working there into the bathroom. He sexually assaulted the 18-year-old woman and forced both women to perform sexual acts on him. And then he bound both women with athletic tape and fled the scene. Later that evening in Redding, California, 12-year-old Kristen Jarvis came home after watching a basketball game at her school. She was expecting to find her mother and her older sister home. She called out to them because she didn't see them in the house. So she went upstairs to her mother's bedroom and found both her mother and her 14-year-old sister dead and undressed on the bed.
Oh no.
Isn't that sad?
Yes. Oh.
So February 15th, 1981, the body of 18-year-old Julie Ruse was found on the stairway of her Beaverton, Oregon home by her mother. The night before she had attended a Valentine's Day party with Randy, she was raped and shot at point blank range in the head. So Randy was dubbed the I-5 killer because of these towns. Like I said, they are right along I-5. And like I said, Redding, it's I-5 runs right through the middle of it, similar to all these other towns.
Right.
So in the beginning of the investigation, there was a turf battle between all the counties, like who was going to take it. Redding wanted it, Salem wanted it, but eventually one detective who, like I said, took in that victim, he took the entire, he was like, I am taking this one personal. I'm taking over. I don't care what you guys say. You can fire me if you don't like it.
Okay.
Um, and so he took the case. He went to the house Randy was renting a room from and talked with the owner. And they searched his room and found athletic tape. And talking with all these women he was dating, the investigators learned that Randy fit the bill for the crimes. So he was arrested. Beth was brought down to the sheriff's office and they did a lineup with Randy. And actually, all the other people on the lineup were just undercover cops. Um, it was just like because they knew it was
They had no
Randy,
yeah,
but they had to be able to provide
right.
her with multiple men. So, and she pointed out Randy immediately. Randy faced trial, and after 3 hour deliberation, he was found guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 90 years. A month later, Randy had to face trial in Benton, Oregon, where more charges were added to his sentencing. Randy is serving out his sentencing in Oregon, and in 2001 and 2006, he was finally tied to the murders of Darcy and Doug's murder. And in 1990, uh, more evidence came out, and law enforcement actually believed that he could be tied to 44 more victims. But
Wow.
I don't know why they haven't pursued that. I don't know if it's like too much time has passed. I don't know. But in 1987, Randy filed a libel lawsuit against Anne Rule, who wrote the book. It's called The I-5 Killer. Um, and the judge ended up dropping the lawsuit because everything she wrote was facts and not biased. Because
Okay.
like he's like, she's slandering me, and the judge is like, no, you did these things though. Like,
Yeah.
sorry.
You were a murderer.
And that is the I-5 Killer, Bree.
That was a good story. That I can I just say I really love when you do stories where and there's such brutal murders, like rape is involved, and you just fly right through them.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I don't like the stories that happen, but I like that you don't go into detail and you're just not like, oh, it's so sad. And it doesn't make me want to cry because it's just like, oh, this person was murdered and blah, 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 blah. And oh, yeah, this person too. Blah, 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 blah. And on to the next. And it's like, oh, okay. Boop, 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 boop.
Boop, boop,
Check,
boop,
check,
boop, boop.
check, check, check. I'll
Well,
process it later.
I'll cry about this later in the shower.
I am not going to cry right now. Good job. I just think it was funny that he kept on showing everybody his pee pee.
That was something I didn't know. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh my God, no way. But like, shame on law enforcement for not doing
Yeah,
anything.
for dropping the ball, man. Come on.
What the heck?
Like, you can't ever be too careful, especially we have so many stories that where they do this stuff like that. Like,
Be better. I
yeah,
think that law
be better.
enforcement's better now, but like back
Yeah,
like the 60s and stuff, like I feel like they're just kind of not.
they're training us for today.
So, all right. Do you have a hometown story?
Neighborhood
Next
story, I do.
neighborhood
It's
story?
it's just a teensy bit long, and I'll try to be quick. All right.
Okay.
It is a news article and it said homeowners blazing Christmas light display slammed by neighbors who call it light pollution or just trying to spread festive cheer. A UK family has labeled their landlords as Scrooges from ordering them to switch off their Christmas decorations at night over light pollution concerns. It says we just can't understand it. We're just trying to spread a bit of festive cheer, Michael Stoner, 21, told Southwest News Service while denouncing their so called war on Christmas decorations. Every holiday season, the Stoners convert their house in Staffordshire into a luminescent Christmas castle complete with 7,000 lights and numerous
Jeez.
inflatables. I know that's a lot. The festive tradition dates back 23 years before Michael was born and has reportedly set them back $12,000.
Oh
However,
my gosh.
the massive undertaking has been worth it due to the cheer it brings to the community. The Brit who lives with his mother, Gail, 52, and brother Timothy, 23, claim they get the lights up as early as September because the children in the local area love it. The lights get everyone interested and makes my community happier, he declared. We have disabled children and autistic children who come down the street just to look at our decoration. It warms your heart to see them so happy. So they understandably are stunned after his family received a letter from their landlord's Home Plus group claiming they've gotten complaints about light pollution. The Christmas Killjoys ask that they switch off the display at 10 p.m. and to also not erect the festive displays before the middle of December each year. So I get the 10 o'clock thing because there's a lot
Yeah,
of freaking that's all I'm gonna tell you about that. There's a lot of lights on it. It's oh, that's an
that's a
advertisement.
car.
That's a car. I mean, it's
That's a
not
lot
that
of
bad, but
lights.
like the where it's at, it looks like it's in like a townhome type thing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, my lights turn off at 10. So,
I feel like 10 o'clock is a fair time.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's fair. That's not that bad. But
No.
still, like,
Like,
they're $12,000.
ugh.
That's a lot of money,
If I had that money, I would put that into Christmas lights.
right? I would too. Same.
That's a lot of money, though.
Yeah, it is.
Whoa. Ew.
Oh,
Well, thank you
yep.
for that. That was a good one.
Okay.
Have you checked in on the neighbors?
What's with the neighbors?
I don't know, Brie. What is with the neighbors?
I don't know.
Brie, Brie, and
Bring
Amy.
Amy out.
Say hi to your cats for us. Come on. Goodbye,
Oh,
buddy.
don't get
Oh.
dead.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Welcome, buddy.
See you later.
Okay, goodbye, buddy.
Bye. I gotta put away groceries now.